Alright, I'm going to show you a couple things you need to do to your printer before you even first fire it up. I'm going to kind of join a couple of videos here together showing the main things you need to watch out for and the things you need to do. So, I may be repeating myself. You got your printer together here and you wanted to fire up, start playing with your brand new 3D printer that you assembled. In this part of this video here, I'm going to show you a couple things that you need to do that'll save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. The very first thing I want you to do is grab your table and run it out. And I want you to look down at the edge of the table and with the whatever you got here, the acrylic or aluminum, whatever it is, and see if that gap is the same. If it's not, pretty much you've got this kicked at an angle, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So these threaded rods, and I've seen other different systems, but it's basically all the same stuff on shafts or in sliders, whatever. If you got this kicked, you're putting a bind on these rods in here and it's not going to work right for you. So what you want to do all this is to first check, and the layman's way or the easy way to do it is to run that out and to see how much the gap is here. It ain't going to be very accurate though, because if your table's crooked, you can't really go by that. What you really need is some way with a tape measure to go in there, and you can do it like this if you wanted to. Come in on this side, hit something not on the table but on the main body of the printer, and take a reading, and then go back over and take a reading. That should be the same. If it's not, you need to loosen these nuts up and make that the same. But before you do it, you got to loosen up these set screws. You can't just loosen the nuts up and start tightening. You got to loosen the set screws up, loosen the nuts up, make your adjustment, recheck, re-loosen the nuts up, keep doing it back and forth till you get it close as you can with the ruler. Now if you have one of these, we can get it even more accurate. We can come in here like this and hit that. Kind of make sure you're getting the same spot on each side too of your main body. Hit that, take a reading, come back over here, take a reading, and adjust from there. You also do the same thing on the back side too. They gotta be, otherwise you put a bind. After you get everything adjusted, then when it's all done, then you finally set your set screws back in that hold the rods in place. That's one thing you can it saves a lot of time, save you some grinding and everything else. When you're trying to, people got them crooked and they're moving things back and forth and they're grinding and binding. This thing will just make things run a lot smoother. The next thing I want to show you is this. And I know everybody's printer ain't the same, but this is your x-axis, and here's these rods that run back and forth in there. And you need to do this before you even tighten the belt up. So I'm going to loosen up my belt. And now different printers work differently. Like this one here, this particular one, the rods go in, they stop. They can't go no further. There's a dead end inside the hole. And then what they want you to do is take one of these collars, which I've something like back in here. You can't see my collars, but I'll show you what they look like. These collars with a set screw on it, and you're supposed to slide that out and tighten up against this other block here. Now, what that does is it keeps these parallel, because when you go to tighten this belt up, and if you ain't got these collars locked in place where they're supposed to be, you're actually going to be, when you tighten the belt up, you're going to be sucking these together, putting a bind in there. So you want to make sure this is done first. Now, some of these, like this one, this goes over there. This one took a collar on the inside, and this would take a collar on the inside. And with the belt loose, then you would set these collars out so that you don't want to push because you're going to put a bind this way. You want to slide the collar down, tighten it up. Slide the collar down, tighten it up. Then slide this collar over and just kind of hold it next to it. Don't be pushing real hard, and set that collar and then set this collar. Then you tighten your belt up. That'll eliminate the binding of this. That's one thing you got to watch out for, binding. A lot of binding in these printers, there's no like safety devices, and I've seen a lot of videos where they don't even tell you to do this stuff. I mean, this is just, I don't know why they should be telling you guys to do this stuff. So basically, you do your collars, get this set, at the same angle as your main body, so you can put a bind here. And there's one more thing. The video's going to switch, and I'm going to show you one more thing you need to do. And with all that, This will eliminate any binding, grinding, and things on your printer. Oh, one more thing. Once you got it together, with it powered off, run it. See, and look and make sure it ain't hitting nothing. You know, make sure nothing's smacking, nothing's getting hit. You know, otherwise you could be going past there and smacking the frame. You gotta make sure nothing's hanging out. Make sure no wires are getting caught. Same with the table. Run the table in and out. Make sure there's no binding, no grinding, no nothing hitting. And there's one other thing. Oh, the other thing too I wanted to tell you. And to avoid smacking your table on your very first fire up, find your adjustment screw for your Z-axis and max it out. I mean, just put the screw all the way in, so your screw's gonna come way up above your head. That way, when you first turn it on and you hit the home position, yes, it's gonna stop. You know, yeah, you fire above your table. At least you're not gonna smack your table. Then you can go and raise it back up and start adjusting. Keep going back and forth until you get it right. This is when it first fires up. This is to help you avoid smacking your table and wrecking stuff. So I would do that. I would also, if you have adjustment for X, I'd max that out, and if you had adjustment for Y, I'd max it out. This particular printer didn't come with adjustment for Y. I made one, and it also didn't come with adjustment for X, and I made that one. So different printers, different kind of stuff. Just make sure that you max them all out when you first fire it up. You don't smack things and wreck things. Because, for example, if my screw here for my end stop for X, if I had it too shallow, this is going to come over, hit that, and it's going to start grinding. If you hear any grinding going on, just rip and unplug it. I mean, you don't want to wreck stuff. But, for example, that would have happened. But by me screwing that one all the way out, it would have stopped the extruder clear back there before it hit anything. Just like if you put the screw all the way in, it'll stop it way above the table before you hit the table. So you do those couple things before you first fire it up, and it'll save you some of breaking parts and having some issues. The other thing I want to tell you is this. After you get printing and you're all happy camper with it, you'll see things on the internet about putting a bigger power supply or using a PC power supply on your 3D printer. Let me tell you my experience with that. Yes, you can do it. But what they do with these printers is they underpower them. So that when the bed draws 300 watts of power. If it can't draw 300 watts of power, then it isn't going to wreck anything. The MOSFETs on these controller boards will handle it. But as soon as you plug in a bigger power supply, like a PC power supply, then the bed can draw 300 watts. The MOSFET can't handle it and overheats and burns up. And I smoked this board doing it that way. So before you do anything with your power supply, as far as upgrades and more voltage or more wattage, you need to get a big old heat sink on that MOSFET for your heat bed and cool it properly. And then you shouldn't have any problems. I'm working on that now. But that's as far as I got. George's3dprinters.com helped me get the problem fixed, got me getting taken care of. So I thought I'd make this video showing people what to do before they start their printers up. You want to buy a printer, call him. He'll take care of you. Alright, so you got your printer all assembled and you want to fire it up, but don't. You do this one adjustment, it'll save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. I've seen the other assembly videos from the manufacturers. They don't tell you to do this. I don't know why, but you should. Anyways, this is your X-axis. And I've seen people where they've got this tilted up or tilted down. And even a little bit will matter. Because this threaded rod here is running at a 90-degree angle. And if you got this kicked up, you're putting a bind on this brass threaded insert here. And I've seen YouTube videos where people have got running their printers and it's grinding and making all kinds of noises. Well, it's because they've got this and they're putting a bind on here. Also, a little grease on these rods would help before you fire it too. It'll save the life of the rod and the brass insert, threaded insert. But the most important thing is to get this level, because it'll put a bind on it and wear it, and you'll have brass shavings and dust all over the place. So I'm going to show you an easy way to do this without any special tools. Take something long and skinny and set it on a flat surface like this and go in here like that and run the motor manually down with your hand until it touches it. Then go to the other side, do the same thing. Keep going back and forth till you get just a snug fit or the same resistance on both sides. you've pretty much got it level. You're going to save the life of your brass inserts. Now I'm going to show you a more precise way of doing it. You get a micrometer with a depth gauge, which is, if you don't know what that is, that's this thing coming out of here. And we're going to run that out past what we're going to be measuring. And we're going to set that in here like this. And we're going to come down and to just touch it and take a reading. And we're going to take this, do the same thing, take another reading just to make sure we're getting the accurate measurement. We're going to take another one. Then we're going to go to the other side and take a reading. And just to check our reading, we're going to do it again. And I've already adjusted mine, so mine's really, really close. But if yours wasn't, you'd then start adjusting one up and down and go back and forth to get the same measurement. It'll save you a ton of hassle if you do this now. You won't have any problems. Well, you might have other problems, but it'll save you problems with the grinding and the brass threaded insert wearing out and the threaded rod wearing out. So put a little grease on the rod, level that. It just one thing you can do to ensure yourself not to have too many problems. The other thing too is your power supply. When it comes in, it's usually a 110 and a 220 power supply. You need to make sure what it's set on. And what they do is they put it like this, but they don't show you where the switch is at. Well, the switch is inside here. You gotta get in with the screwdriver to flip the switch. When I got mine, I didn't see this. And I had mine running on 210 when I'm actually plugged into 110 and it wasn't operating right. So make sure you check your power supply too, what it's set on. So switch it to 110. And right here's a little light. And there's an adjustment screw to set your voltage. So what you do is you unplug it from your printer, get yourself a multimeter, put it on 110, and adjust that till you get your 12 volts. Because it will be different. If it comes in, mine came in on 11.2 volts set. So that's another thing you can do to save yourself some problems and headaches. Check your power supply. Make sure it's set on 110 volts, and then make sure you're getting 12 volts out of it. If not, adjust the screw to fix that problem. These two things will just save a lot of headaches. Oh, and by the way, if you need to buy a printer or need any help, Georges3dprinters.com. The guy knows what he's doing, and he can help you out. And there's a phone number there. This part of the video, I want to talk about parts. And when you're assembling your printer, one thing can help you out is look your parts over. And I'll give you an example of this. These are metal parts that are meant to replace these 3D printer parts. Well, metal isn't always better. It's stronger, but it isn't always better, and I'm going to tell you why. I bought this little upgrade kit, and how this works is these slide up in here and bolt in place, like so. And that's what's to take place of this metal bracket, or this plastic bracket over here. So as you're assembling your printer, you can look for things like this. So for example, they expect you to bolt that on there like that. Let me get a good camera view of this. And you can already see that this is not parallel or level with this surface. It's actually going down, which means this part of the bracket is bent. So then, let's say we had installed that. And what would be happening is it'd be putting a twist on these two compared to your threaded rod here and your shaft, causing wear of the brass threaded insert. And as the farther you got down or up to where these actually connect, let me show you where they're more rigid at the top here than they are in the middle. It would put a bind and grind. What they needed to do, which I don't know why they didn't do it on these particular ones, was to put another support up here for it so it was supported at the base and up here, and it would have been more level. So it needs to be up like that, not like that. I mean, you could probably shim that with a washer or bend the bracket back where it's supposed to be, but I'm just using this for example to show you Look your parts over. Make sure things are square and where they're supposed to be running. All this stuff comes from Hong Kong Louis, so you got to look it over real good and make sure everything's good to go. You'll find a bad part here and there or something like that. It's more of a tinker's thing, but doing things like this when you're assembling your printer, looking things over and make sure things are good to go, will save you a lot of time. And when you're trying to troubleshoot something later down the line, it's doing something and you can't figure it out. That's why, because you probably got a bad part or something's crooked or something is causing you problems. So that's one thing I'd like to say when you're first assembling your printer is to look your parts over as you assemble it. That's my advice to you on that part. This part of the video, I want to show you how to level your bed. And that's another thing you need to do before you fire it up. After you've got your adjustment screw, like I talked about before, and you kept going, up and down to avoid smacking your table, if you get it down close, what they don't tell you in a lot of videos I see is if you've already had material ran through your extruder, and if you try leveling your bed the way it is now, there's a piece of plastic hanging out the bottom of your extruder that's going to set your level off. I mean, it's not, you're going to be too far away from the table. So if you've never had plastic ran through material ran through your extruder, you don't need to have your extruder heated up. But if you have had material ran through it, you need to heat it up. So the plastic is liquid again now, so you can actually get an accurate thing when you're leveling the bed. I've seen a lot of videos, no one ever tells you to do this. This is a thing I discovered on my own. I don't know why. I mean, they know it, they just don't want to, they just forget to tell you. So this is how you do this. So I'm going to go ahead and home out my Z. And I've got my extruder heated up, and I've got my material that's flowing through there. Now, to level the bed, I'm going to run this over here. I'm going to run this back over this corner. You need a piece like Post-it paper or something like that, and you'll experiment more about how far you need to do it, because you'll see if your plastic's getting pushed onto the bed or not far enough. But anyways, so you're going to take and get just a snug fit on that. And you're then going to run it over to this side and get the same exact kind of snug fit in there too. If not, then you need to adjust these screws on the end. You also need to keep, now remember, when you adjust, let's say we got our feel over on this corner, and then we come back and adjust this one. Well, it's gonna change this one. You gotta go back and forth, and you can't just do it one time. You gotta check them a bunch of times. Then you're gonna run to the back, and you're gonna slide the paper underneath there and get a snug fit, and you're gonna run it over and do the same thing. Then you're gonna come back and check the front again, because like I said, this is pivoting, and like this, you gotta come back and see what you got here, and you gotta keep checking this. So once you get the same feelness on all four corners, and let's say you've got it, it's the same, but it's a little gappy in there, you need to come back and adjust your home set switch over here, and then go through and do it again. But the important thing about what I wanted to show here was that some people don't tell you, you gotta have that extruder hot. Otherwise, the little piece of plastic out the bottom of it doesn't give you an accurate, reading on it. You gotta make sure it's warm when you do it. This part of the video I want to talk about material, and for people who are new to it like me, stick with PLA. It's just easier to print with. It's a lot easier to use, and I'll tell you what the deal is. Let's say that if you try running ABS, and let's say that you print that on your table. Well, as you keep printing, it goes higher and higher, the top tends to cool and buckle the corners of the bottom of your print, so it'll start raising up. And you have to fine tune it and do different things to make it work, for ABS. I haven't played with it too much. But as far as PLA, I had any problems. It just works. The other thing I want to tell you about was, I've seen a lot of different videos where people are putting tape on the table, doing different things on the table. I'll tell you what I did. I preheat my table to 60 degrees. I keep it at 60 degrees. Well, sorry. First, you put a little bit of hairspray on there, and I wanted to show people how much to use, because I've seen people talk about different forms, but I never seen anybody actually, show how to use it. Let's say I was going to print something in the center of the screen. That's all you need. You don't need any more. You let it dry, which will dry pretty quick, and then you start printing your PLA. I heat my table for PLA. I take it to 60 degrees. I've never had a print come loose. It's just 100% works every time. No problems, no issues, no nothing. Let's say that I printed this. Don't come up to your print when it's done and try yanking it off the table. The hairspray holds it on there pretty damn good. You ain't gonna get it off there. Let it cool down to about 38 degrees. And then if you're in a big hurry, you can take something pointy, like this. I've used X-Acto knives, they work better, and come in at an angle and just give it a couple taps and it'll come right loose. Now, if you let it sit there and let it cool down below 38 degrees, you can actually start hearing on kick as it's breaking loose, and you can actually walk up and it comes off that easy. And I said I've seen a lot of videos of different things people different use. This works for me. Never failed. It's always worked. The hairspray always works. Now here's the cool thing about this. Then let's say you're just starting to use hairspray, and I want to print something else after I've already printed something. I put another layer of hairspray on there. Now after that, you can pretty much print 5, 6 more things without adding more hairspray, because when it heats up it gets tacky again. When it's cold it gets hard. It isn't tacky, but you start heating the bed up, it gets tacky, you just print right on top of it. So you don't have to use hairspray every time, but you'll see as you play with it. After about like the 6th print, I'll wash it off and then put some fresh back on, kind of thing. The other thing I wanted to, because remember this video is for people just starting out, and I recommend PLA because it's a lot easier to use than ABS, is not all PLA is created equal. Find out what the melting temperature of your PLA is, and I'm going to show you an example here. Like this PLA here, it says it melts at 230 degrees C. Now other PLA like Hatchbox, I believe melts at 200 degrees C. So that's something you got to watch out for. If you're ever printing and your motor here, you hear skipping going on, it's kick. Well, the problem is your nozzle temperature isn't hot enough to melt the plastic, and it's skipping on the gear in there. That's a sign that your nozzle temperature is not hot enough to melt the plastic you're putting through it. Also, here's another thing I wanted you to watch out for. When I bought my plastic, my filament, my material, I bought like red, blue, green, and some black, all from the same manufacturer, same person. And I was printing in blue, everything was fine. Printed some green, everything's fine. I started printing black, and it just didn't work. This thing was skipping all the hell and acting crazy, and I couldn't figure out what's going on with this. So I called up my buddy George. George is 3dprinters.com. If you need a printer, call George. Or if you need assistance, call George. He'll help you. So I called him up and told him what was going on. He says, it sounds like you're running ABS at too low a temperature. And I'm like, no, it's PLA. He says, why don't you check for me? So I went and grabbed the roll of material, and sure enough, the manufacturer, the seller, had sent me all my colors in PLA, but it sent me my black in ABS. So, I mean, again, I was new to this. I was like, didn't know what was going on. I called George, said something to him. He's like, oh, it's easy fix, blah, blah, blah. When you talk to him, you'll see what I'm saying. He knew right away what the problem was and got me straightened out. So that's another thing I wanted to give you some warnings about when you're first getting into printing with this, is like different things that'll happen to you. I'll go back to what, like I said, my settings. 60 degrees for PLA on the bed. Now they say you don't have to preheat your bed, but if you're using the hairspray, you have to preheat the bed. I take mine to 60, keep it at 60. And then the nozzle temp for your PLAs will be different from whatever material you're buying or you're buying it from. Could be anywhere from, I think, 180 to 230. You got to make sure you got that right. And if you got everything right, you should be printing. So, like I said, this whole part of these videos, this collage of little pieces of videos you're looking at here, was just for people who are wanting to get into 3D printing, or people who got one or having problems. It's just a overall general things to do or to watch out for to make it a lot more fun experience for you. Because like I said, when I got mine, I had nothing but problems. Once I worked through the problems and figure out what was going on. And now I'm printing stuff. I'm a happy camper. And all again, PLA is real easy to print with. So like I got these little jack stands I've printed out. I've printed out these e-cigarette mod boxes, different stuff like that. The other cool part about this whole 3D printing thing is you can make your own parts and tinker with it. It's more of a tinker's thing, It's like model building. You're building a model, well, you're done. Why'd you do it? Well, it's relaxing, made you happy. Well, I tend to be more, this is my fun time to tinker and do different things. So, you can make different parts for your printer, make it do different stuff. Like here's some mounts I was making for up here on the extruder. Different brackets. I've made different end stops. I've made different stuff for it. So, just want to give this a general thing about the 3D hole printing process. If you're having problems, like I said, call George. He knows what he's doing. He sells printers. He sells time for helping you fix your printer. And just get a hold of him. Other than that, that should be about it.